Chapter 15 Caught in the Act. It's Tuesday, the third Tuesday of the month, and according to the menu magneted to our fridge, that means it's Chicken Nugget Day, which is all well and good, providing you don't think about all the parts of a chicken you wouldn't eat if you knew better, which is a lot of it, really. It doesn't matter how much fried batter you put around a thing, it can still be awful to the core. It's Tuesday, and the Fox's announcement seems to have restored some of the public's faith. The morning headlines are boldface, all caps. Fox vows to bring down dealer. City's champion promises justice. There's even a quote in one article, supposedly from the Fox herself, saying that she will do what the supers who came before me never could. I suppose if anyone can, it's her, yet I can't seem to shake this feeling in my gut, that there's something we're all missing. Which is why I'm on my bike, when I should be at school, riding to the south end of town, past the graffiti-covered tunnels and the stinking sewer grates, wondering what my parents would say if they knew what I'm doing. If they knew that I'm skipping school to go to a bar, to meet up with my superhero mentor. Again. Twice we have spoken since he dumped me outside Bob's Bolorama. Twice I have tried to convince him that he has a responsibility, if not to me, then at least to the code, to the community, to truth, justice, freedom of assembly. I don't care, as long as it's something. Both times he's blown me off, swatting me away like a gnat. The second time, I swore it was the last. I gave up. But that was before Mr. Masters pulled me aside, before the 3 remaining Jacks escaped from prison, before the last villain and the Titan ever faced, the man who had supposedly died at his own hands, came back from the dead. Mr. Masters was worried, and though I still feel like there was something the head of Hero was hiding from me, I couldn't deny the logic. Whatever happened between the dealer and the Titan so many years ago was enough to send the leader of the Legion of Justice into a downward spiral. Now the dealer was back, and the group of heroes who stopped him was no more, its members either retired, missing, or dead. Except for one. Which is why I'm skipping school. Convincing my parents to let me stay home was the easy part. I only had to throw up. Twice. All I needed was a trigger, something to get my stomach rolling, like the smell of rotting garbage in the Randalls' driveway, tipped in the night by a raccoon, eggs overdue, and a gallon of putrid milk, plus 1 finger in the throat, and last night's dinner is on the esophageal express to the toilet town. No fever, my mom said, shaking the thermometer the way she's seen them do in old movies, even though it's digital and goes in my ear. I think it's just something you ate. I told her that I'd be fine, that she was late for work. She told me that she'd call at lunch to see how I was feeling. I made a note of it, then waited for the sound of her van turning the corner before I bothered to get dressed. The ride to the last hurrah seems to take longer this time. Along the way, I plan what I'm going to say, something about the dealer and the 3 Jacks, and Mr. Masters, and how the world needs the Titan to come back and do his job. I won't make it about me. He's made it clear that I'm not one of his priorities. I'll appeal to his sense of justice and honor, and if that doesn't work, I'll tell him he's in mortal danger. And I suppose if that doesn't work, I'll call him a chicken and make those squawking noises like we did in first grade to kids who wouldn't jump off the swings. I hated that. My bicycle is the only thing parked outside the last hurrah at 9:30 in the morning. The sign says operating hours, noon to 3 a.m. I peer through the window. The lights in the bar are off, but I can make out a faint glow coming from the back hall, enough to see that the place is empty. I sit on the steps, letting my back slide down the door, my head resting on my hands. I don't know what I expected. To find him on the stool, maybe, or past it on the floor, or maybe sleeping on a bench outside. I look around. A man walking his dog, an older woman carrying her basket of clothes from the laundromat next door, 2 guys in black jackets standing at the corner. One of them looks at me, and I quickly look away. I think maybe I'll just sit here for the next 5 hours and hope he shows up. Or maybe I'll just rock around the seediest part of town I can until somebody mugs me or kidnaps me, on the off chance that this time he'll show up. I'm debating my options when there's a click, and I nearly fall backward as the door I'm leaning against swings open. I turn to see the last hurrah's bartender standing in the frame. He's wearing a bathrobe cinched tight and a hat called Pick Up the Tab. "Little early to be looking for a drink," he says. "Little young, too." "Sorry," I say, standing up and straightening myself out. I am looking for someone. I think he comes here a lot." The man scratches his chin and then rests his hand on the natural shelf of his belly. "He smells like cigarettes, beer, and maple syrup. A lot of people come here, a lot," he replies. "Yeah, but this guy you'd remember. Tall, big arms, big chest, big everything. Sits back in the corner. I can tell by the look in the man's glossy eyes he knows exactly who I'm talking about. Sorry, kid, but I haven't seen him in almost a week. Not since you came in last. The bartender smiles, and I see he's got one silver tooth like a pirate. If I look hard enough, I can see my reflection in it. Don't get too many customers your age, he explains. Besides, he told me you might come looking for him. He did? That doesn't sound like the Titan. The bartender nods. He said to tell you to just stop already. Stop bothering him. Stop looking for him. Stop even thinking about him. He says you're better off if you just forget about him entirely. Never mind. That sounds exactly like him. I look down at the steps for a moment, then back at the silver tooth. I don't suppose you knew where he went or where I could find him? The bartender shakes his head. You don't hear too well, do you? Actually, hearing is a strength of mine, I say. It's listening I have trouble with. He grunts at my joke, then sighs. Not that it's any of my business, he says, but I don't know that he lives anywhere. But I do know he's got a friend that picks him up sometimes when it's closing time. Don't know who this friend is or where he lives, only that his name's Red. Red, I whisper. Color of fire trucks and apples and that really great sweater Jenna wears sometimes with the 3 buttons, and my eyeballs in just about every family photo. All the name of guys in westerns, usually cooks who ends up shot about halfway through. I have no idea who Red is. Okay, thanks. I turn to mount my bike, but the bartender stops me and motions for me to come back. He leans against the door and kind of squints at me with one eye. Listen, kid, I've seen a lot of men, good men, strong men, proud men, but they come through this door all beat down and bowled over by one darn thing or another. They come through that door with something lodged inside them so they can't swallow, and they try to drown it fast as they can, but it doesn't work. They leave with it still stuck there. The bartender points to his chest. I don't know your friend very well, and I don't know what's going on between you two, but I hope it's that you're looking to help him and not the other way around. The man straightens up and leans in the doorframe again, arms crossed. I mean to say thanks, but it feels like there's something caught in my throat too, so instead I just nod and get back on the bike. And don't come back here until at least know how to shave, the bartender shouts behind me. I start for home with only a color. When I get back, I can search online, but with no last name, I'm not hopeful. I could always ask Mr. Masters. He might know something, though I'm still not 100% sure I trust him either, or that he trusts me. It's all just a big jumble in my head. The Titan, the dealer, Mr. Masters, the fox, Jenna, the suits. I feel like a spectator watching it all unfold, and every time I try to do something, I run into a dead end. A pool of acid, an empty bar, a new body spray. It's starting to tick me off. I pass the entrance to Ellis Park and check my phone. It's only 10 o'clock. I've got 2 more hours before I need to be home to intercept my mother's call. I let my bike drop at the grass, and I drop down beside it. On the weekends, the park is swarming with kids, but on this Tuesday morning, it's mostly empty. I find a spot in the shade to cool off. The breeze feels nice, and I open up a little. I can smell the moisture in the air, laced with the perfume of the clover in the field below. I lie back in the grass and let it tickle my ears. I try to block out the sound of traffic and construction crews, filling potholes, and concentrate on what's right around me. Squirrels fussing, bees humming. I can hear the trees talking, their branches creaking, stretching their limbs, the whisper of the leaves holding out for October, less than a week away. Then I close my eyes and let it all drift. One by one, the sounds disappear. I take deep breaths and let them out as slowly as possible, until there is nothing. Only the coolness of the ground on my back and the suggestion of light beyond my eyes. I try to let go of everything. The Titan, Mr. Masters, the suits, Julius Caesar, the math test, the homework I didn't get done, the shoplifter I didn't tackle, even Jenna. Just let it all go and drift away. The buzzing wakes me up. It's coming from my pocket. I fish out my phone, 2 missed calls, and a text. Where are you? The text isn't from Jenna or Eric or anyone at school. It's from my mom. Only parents bother to use proper capitalization and punctuation in their texts. I check the time. It's 12:17, and I'm supposed to be at home sick. I hop on my bike and pedal as fast as I can, sweating through my shirt, making my legs burn, but it's not fast enough. Her car is already in the driveway. I let the bike fall and try to compose myself, smearing my hair down and catching my breath. When I walk in the door, she is standing in the foyer, waiting for me. She actually has her hands tucked into little fists on her hips. I didn't know mothers actually stood like that. As soon as she starts talking, though, they launch from their perches and flit around like crazed hummingbirds. Where have you been? She squawks. I tried calling you twice, both here and your cell, and you didn't answer. I called your father, and he didn't know either. I can actually hear the exclamation points at the end of her sentences. The hummingbirds come to rest by her sides again. I take advantage of her need to take a breath. Sorry, Mom. I just went over to the park for a while, hoping the fresh air would make me feel better. I always like it better when I can tell part of the truth. But she's not convinced. Her eyebrows are still arched, one foot tapping in an impatient rhythm. You can't just up and leave like that, you know? She scolds. Not without telling somebody. You should have called or sent me a message. You know the rules. Yes, I think to myself. I am well aware of the rules. I'm sorry, I say. I should have called. Hoping the quick apology cuts off her attack. I offer her a little smile as icing, but she doesn't bite. You don't understand, she says. I was worried sick. And I can hear it in her voice, the slight tremble. This isn't about me making a phone call. Did you even hear what happened this morning? I look at her dumbly, waiting. Those lunatics robbed another bank, right outside the city this time. I feel myself tense up. Another hit? And closer. The suits are grabbing cash and working their way towards Justicia. Were they stopped? I ask, maybe a little too quickly. I mean, did the cops show up? Or anyone? I think about Jenna and Eric and Gavin, all in ready reserve status. Would their supers have called on them, dragged them out of school, piled them in the backseat of Cryo's car, and told them to change on the way? Probably not. They were still just rookies. But if it was an emergency, if the supers needed all the help they could get, then what? My mother shakes her head. I heard it all on the radio. Then you didn't answer. I was so worried. I'm instantly swallowed in a bear hug, the life squeezed out of me. It's stupid, I know. It has nothing to do with us, but I can't help it. She steps back and holds on to both of my shoulders, staring into my eyes with her two blue tractor beams. And there is that moment again where I start to wonder just how much she knows. You don't have to worry, I tell her, trying my best to sound convincing. She gives me another disapproving look. I don't want you to go out alone while those thugs are around, understand? I want to tell her that those aren't thugs. Thugs carry lead pipes and wear ski masks hoping to steal purses from old ladies. These guys are villains. There's a big difference, but I don't. After all, I just told her not to worry. I'm serious, Drew. These people are dangerous. I've heard all about them. I know there are others out there to protect us, but you can't always count on them, you know? You have to look out for yourself. Thanks, preacher, says the choir, I say, then realize I've probably said too much already. I'll be careful. Promise. We hug it out some more, and she gives me a parting death stare, akin to saying, I'm watching you, mister. I manage to escape and tiptoe upstairs to my room, shut the door, and pull the local news feed up on my laptop. One headline on the Justicia Daily Trumpet website reads, Suits strike again. Another reads, Escaped cons continue crimes. Crusaders can't catch up. It's another bank robbery, except this one is captured on video, and it's already streaming across YouTube, in a town less than an hour away. The robber, enormous, dressed in a snug black coat and fancy slacks and size 16 shoes, walked into a First National with a shovel across one shoulder and a giant bag that he demanded be filled with hundreds only. A security guard, overestimating his chances, drew his gun and emptied his clip, all 12 shots ricocheting harmlessly from the flat face of the shovel. With one swing, the shovel caught the guard in the gut, sending him flying. The robber then made some comment about using that same shovel to dig everyone's grave if the tellers didn't hurry. So they hurried. As he left, the robber handed the bank manager his card. The Jack of Spades. According to the news, Hotshot was the first to arrive at the scene, nearly burning a hole in the roof as he touched down. But by the time he got there, the Jack had disappeared. The super made some offhand comment about remaining vigilant and stopping them the next time before launching himself back into the sky, 4th of July style. Kryos pulled up 3 minutes later in his souped-up, bulletproof roadster, squealing to a halt and poking his chrome-plated head out of the window, just long enough to scan the scene with his cybernetic eyes before thundering away. The police filed in after, though there wasn't much detective work to be done. It's the easiest game of Clue ever. Jack of Spades, in the bank, with the shovel. The suits aren't subtle. That's the difference between thugs and villains. The villains want you to know they did it. Strike two against the forces of goodness and light. At least nobody from Hero was involved. I think about what Mr. Masters said about the dealer's knack for staying one step ahead of everyone, and I can't help but feel like this is only the beginning, that it might even be a ruse. Maybe they don't even need the money. Maybe they're just trying to put everyone in a panic. Is is it any is it any coincidence that this happened less than 24 hours after the fox told us to stay calm? I watched the bank teller in the video scream her head off. I scroll down when something else catches my eye. A little patch of news in the corner, an editorial or a blog, only 3 paragraphs long, but the picture and the title gets my attention. The photo is of the Titan, in costume, obviously taken from the archives, judging by how young and trim he looks. He holds a would-be mugger in each hand and is slamming their heads together like he's crashing cymbals. He looks nothing like the man at the last hurrah. I whisper the title to myself. Where are you now? And I realize that I'm not the only one looking for him.